Hi, and welcome inside the Citrus TV studios for another web edition of Q's Countdown. Alongside my analysts Seth, Quam, and Chris Thomsen, I'm your host, Matt Reil. Guys, Michael Nzei had his best game of the year, best game of his career by far against NC State. Last game out for Syracuse. What does the senior have to do down the stretch, continue to do down the stretch for this team to be successful?
What really impressed me about Michael Nzei in this past game was the way he just took control. Usually he's one of those players who kind of lets the game come to him. He sees what the defense is giving him and, maybe passes it around some. He's not necessarily a guy who says, okay, I've got the ball, I need to score. I think in this game he changed his mentality a little bit, realized that guys like Trevor Cooney, Tyler Roberson weren't giving them much offensively. So he took control and was just feeling it from outside. Career high in points, three-pointers, and blocks. Incredible game from Nzei, and part of it is just that mentality change where he knows he needs to be the leader and take control.
Yeah, definitely a little more aggressiveness from him. But really, I would say if you're going to look at anybody in Syracuse, Michael Nzei is not the problem. You'll have to look elsewhere. Trevor Cooney needs to step up more. Malachi Richardson, he's played that nice role, specifically in the NC State game, as more of a distributor. Tyler Roberson, necessarily, he really needs to step it up. Boeheim's still calling him out for his defense.
Somehow his defensive play has just steadily decreased since the middle of the season.
Yeah, I would say anyone except Nzei, really.
Yeah, a lot of guys definitely need to step up for Syracuse down the stretch. Speaking of that last game by Nzei, let's take a look at how Syracuse fared against NC State. They beat the Wolfpack 75-66. They are now 19-10 on the year. Michael Nzei, a huge game, 34 points, 6 assists, and you're talking about Malachi Richardson's distribution, 7 assists there, guys.
Great job facilitating the offense by both of those guys, really. And Malachi did a nice job offensively as well, making those threes in rhythm. Syracuse needs to continue to do a good job of getting Malachi the ball in those opportunities where he can be successful.
Right, and the other thing about this game was the 2-3 zone was at its best. They held Cap Barber to only 15 points, and you don't usually hold a player to 15 points, but this is a guy who consistently puts up 30 points, 20 points, numbers that are high up. Syracuse just cut off the lane for him, and they collapsed down low. Their defense really carried them in that one, I'd say.
Well, the 2-3 zone is going to have to continue to play well because up next, the real game we need to talk about, UNC at Chapel Hill. This is a big game for Syracuse. They're taking on the Tar Heels, arguably the best team in the country, guys. What's your X factor for this game for Syracuse?
So in this one, I'm going with 3-point shooting for Syracuse as my X factor. We saw Michael Nzei light it up from behind the arc against NC State. And I don't know if you can necessarily count on him for 8 threes every game. He is a rock for this offense, and he'll definitely put in his contributions. But it gets a little risky when you're looking at Trevor Cooney only making, 1 field goal against NC State. So some of those other guys, Trevor Cooney, if it's not him, it's Leiden, it's Malachi. Those guys, someone needs to make threes, and it can't always be Nzei having the game of his life.
Yep, you mentioned him, but my X factor is definitely Trevor Cooney. In the North Carolina game earlier this season, he had 27 points. He was the one who kept UNC, kept that game within reach, I would say. I'm not asking Trevor Cooney to drop 27 points, but I'm asking him not to have 1 field goal like he had against NC State. He needs to show up all hands on deck for this one particularly because this is SU's toughest opponent yet. Yeah,
definitely a really dangerous UNC team here. Do they have a chance, guys? What's your prediction for the game? Chris, we'll start with you.
My prediction is 74-65 UNC. It's a little bit of a bigger margin, but I think that really comes down to the stretch when UNC kind of closes it out. It's going to be a close one. It's going to come down to rebounding. It's going to come down to 3-point shooting. Syracuse could easily pull away and get this one, but I just think UNC's talent is just too much for Syracuse to handle.
I think Syracuse has gained a little momentum in this last game, really, and I think they'll put up a strong performance. But I see UNC pulling away in the end in this one. I'm going to take North Carolina 70-62. I think Syracuse is just going to go back to what they've been doing most of the season, where they just don't close out in games. I think that's a big worry for Syracuse fans for the Orange going forward. And North Carolina, just at this point, is a better team. But I think it's important, regardless, for SU to put up a good showing and be competitive in this game if they want to have a good chance of making it into the tournament.
Well, if there's any questions about whether Syracuse is deserving to be in the tournament, if they win at UNC, those questions would all be squashed. And obviously, Syracuse needs that win to boost their resume. And that'll do it for us here on this web edition of Q's Countdown. Check out Syracuse's next game against UNC. We'll have all the coverage for that game on Q's Countdown this week, so be sure to check it out. For Seth Quam and Chris Thomsen, I'm your host, Matt Reil. Have a great day, everyone.